does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
Fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025 reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
The Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul press conference descended into mayhem, transforming what was meant to be regular hype into a full-fledged altercation. When asked why he decided to fight Paul rather than more experienced opponents, Davis became irate. Tension increased until moderators stepped in as Paul took advantage of personal scandals and made fun of Davis's past. "I'll be outboxing."
And truly, when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're gonna be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm gonna show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
The interaction was anything but friendly from the start. A physical representation of the size difference between the two that has dominated pre-fight discourse. Paul's 6 feet 1 inch frame loomed over Davis's 5 feet 5 inches body. Paul publicly implied that his superior stature and length would keep Davis at bay by using the height and reach gap as promotional material. Davis, a lightweight champion, used his shorter opponents, pushed on his renowned quickness, stating that once the action heated up, the size difference would not matter. The boxers' extreme disparity in size was one of the main causes of contention. Before the match began, a number of commentators, including well-known media voices, called it unfair or even a clown show. A social media-turned boxer who normally competes at considerably heavier weights is facing off against Davis, a decorated lightweight champion who entered the fight undefeated. The fact that the fight is classified as an exhibition rather than a conventional professional title fight adds to controversy surrounding its legitimacy.
But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul, was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continue to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch. I mean, they fought.
Paul is said to thrive on provocation and theatricality. Additionally, the purpose of the press conference was to create viral moments. The legal allegation jabs, the clown humor, and the pushing. Each piece helped create an atmosphere that was less like a regular boxing press event and more like a showdown on a reality show. According to reports, the press conference was a flurry of activity that meant little and provided more spectacle than substance. However, once again,
Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real, and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love, and you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real
Keith Thurman drew attention to a scathing irony and how Gervonta Davis benefits from his detractors. Is also not incorrect. People who never miss Davis' fights are the same ones who criticize his performances on a regular basis. They say his boxing isn't good enough, but they watch every time he enters a ring. Thurman contends that by focusing their attention, even unfavorable attention, they are increasing Davis' prominence and significance. Their grievances serve to increase his appeal, so turning them into unintentional fans. In other words, they exalt his name the more they attempt to undermine him.
First off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all heights, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What's it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It should say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion. For entertainment, don't do this at home, kids. Don't find
disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only. So it's money-making purposes only.
According to Stephen A. Smith, who called out the mismatch more plainly, Paul was dismayed and even horrified by the popular mismatched exhibition bouts, such as Paul versus Mike Tyson. He underlined that Paul must face genuine opponents in the ring, not retired athletes or celebrities. Stephen A. acknowledged Paul's commercial flair and the attention he provides to the sport in spite of his criticisms. However, he made it apparent that competing against real modern boxing skill is necessary to establish reputation. Smith has also responded sharply to the contentious March majority draw between Davis and Lamont Roach. He stressed the significance of Davis' stellar record and brushed off any argument that criticism was justified. He believed that Davis' refusal to falter in the face of uncertainty or disagreement was an example of great championship poise. His quick acceptance of a rematch was presented as the action of a boxer who was ready to confirm his supremacy at the greatest level and was confident in his position.
Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better be a Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he gonna say, I don't need Canelo, Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about pop.
He praised Davis' strength, skill, and knockout artistry, ranking him among the top 3 boxers in the world. While Jake Paul is mostly a YouTuber and a novice to the sport who came from the entertainment industry, Tank is a world champion and a highly renowned boxing talent. An established and successful champion's reputation could be harmed by facing such a novice or inferior opponent. Smith claimed that Tank should be ashamed of this battle because it is well below his level. Paul vs. Davis on Netflix is a big attraction, according to Raleigh Romero, especially for younger U.S. viewers. He contends that the Paul Davis show will draw a larger audience in the United States, especially among those under the age of 20, even though Canelo vs. Crawford will have a profound impact on Mexican and Latin American fans. Romero thinks both bouts increase boxing's overall popularity, which is good for the sport. From a sports perspective, he believes Canelo vs. Crawford is better, but he believes the Paul vs. Davis bout will have a wider audience in the U.S.
Who will win this fight? Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question. And I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win. Because I know what Vegas is saying, but I don't know what you think. You got
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. That weight class is for a reason.
Davis
That weight class is for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205 pounds.
That's what I'm saying.
Dog.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank going, it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70 pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. 135 pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30 pound difference, bro. If you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30 pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what I feel like.
In the middle of the commotion over Tank fighting Paul, WBC lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson gave Davis a stern warning. Stevenson claimed that Davis' decision to pursue an exhibition with Paul was disrespectful to the sport and that he should have faced a serious opponent like himself if he really wanted to gain recognition. Stevenson pushed Davis to fight him instead, believing he was the finest fighter in the category.
What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if you gonna call cap and say I'm not who I say I am.
Before his fight with Gervonta Davis, former heavyweight contender Eddie Chambers sent a strong warning to Jake Paul, emphasizing that Paul's typical opponents haven't prepared him for what's ahead. According to Chambers, Paul has rarely encountered the speed, knockout power, and sophisticated ring intelligence that Davis offers. He pointed out that while Davis is a completely different kind of fighter, Paul's prior triumphs were mostly against older or less seasoned opponents. According to Chambers, Paul needs to step up his game a lot or risk being exposed by Davis' superior skill set and ability to handle pressure.
But this is social media, this is what it's created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters, actual fighters, some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing and what he's created. This is a little crazy. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit him. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. It's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out but...
Pundits have harshly criticized the match between Jake Paul and Gervonta, claiming it is more spectacle than sport. Many claim the headlines and large payouts, rather than genuine competitiveness, are influencing the fight. They characterize it as a rapacious, cartoonish carnival where legacy, skill, merit, and traditional boxing ideals are being foregone in favor of social media popularity and financial gain. They see this change as a depressing turn away from the sport's illustrious past and the gravity that formerly characterized the sweet science.